Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the HooperCast once again. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. All right. So anyway, this is we're gonna get right into it. This is episode 298. We're talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier tonight, and I'm very pleased to have you both on to talk about this.
Yes, sir.
We haven't spoken about this series at all since we waited till the finale to discuss it. So we got some time tonight, and we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to play a little bit from the trailer, and when we come back, we'll talk about the series.
We need someone to inspire us again.
The world's more complicated now.
We're never gonna stop. This world is ours. There's no going back.
It doesn't have to be a war.
It already is.
That's a little bit from the trailer of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is on Disney Plus. It's amazing. You like that shit? There's 6 episodes, right? 6 of them, and just wrapped up. And so yeah, we're going to talk about it. The series was created by Malcolm Spellman and is of course starring Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Wyatt Russell, Aaron Kellyman, Danny Ramirez, George St. Pierre, Don Cheadle, Daniel Bruhl, Emily Van Camp, and a couple other people in there that I won't spoil. They're popping up in there because they're not in trailers. So I figure what we could do first is just spoiler free, just kind of generally give our thoughts on the show's, strengths or weaknesses maybe, and then we'll hit the break and we'll talk about spoilers. But I'm going to start with John. John, overall, what was your impression of the series?
Overall, I liked it a lot. For me, the back half of the series was better than the first half. So it got progressively better. I think that it accomplished what I set out to find in it, which was kind of like a personal story between the two lead characters and their progression, both as teammates and as individuals, and what their kind of new responsibilities meant. And on that level, I think it really succeeded. I thought the story was kind of a little all over the place when when focus was away from those two characters. In a larger sense, the story was a little strange. And when it kind of came into the more intimate frame of Sam and Bucky, that's kind of when it shined for me. And the villain, the set of villains, I guess, was a little anticlimactic for me. But again, I think the show accomplished what I wanted out of it, and kind of really drove into some new territory for the MCU in terms of tackling issues that the MCU hasn't really delved into before, real world issues and things like that from a different perspective and a more realistic tone for the MCU, which was very refreshing. So on that level, it really succeeded for me.
Dustin, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say it was mostly a success. I mean, I think the quality was kind of all over the map for me. I couldn't distill it into first half, second half, or anything like that. It was just kind of like from episode to episode, I was interested sometimes, and sometimes I was a little bored. And I think John kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, I enjoy that it was able to talk about some things that are real world issues, and use genre to do that. But at the same time, I felt like it kind of lost me a little bit, because what I was there for was very much seeing those two main characters interact. And just like John said, when it lost that, it lost me. I too think the Flag Smashers were a little anticlimactic and inherently less interesting than Wyatt Russell's character. And so I think there were some story missteps here for sure. Some things felt rushed and some things felt really stretched out. But yeah, I mean, I mostly enjoyed it. I don't think I was as glued to the TV with it as I was with WandaVision and its first, I forget how long WandaVision was, but everything but that finale. Like I was like, oh, I'm on board. And like with this, even though I love the Captain America movies and I really loved what was going on with Sam Wilson in this, and also Bucky. But when it lost that, it lost me. So yeah, I mean, I would say like on a scale, like our normal scale, I'd give it 3 stars. It's fine. It didn't break like my mind, like, whoa, Marvel's capable of this now. Like It was just kind of like a long movie. And I do think this is the rare example of that episodic release hurting the final product. I feel like in this particular case, had it all dropped at once, it would have been much better.
I don't feel that way. I liked, I continue to like this whole experiment with the Disney Plus series. Fuck, whatever.
You're right.
Sirai. I'd probably give it a 3.5. About scoring as much as you guys. I did enjoy it. I too was sort of bored when we get into like, we're gonna go see this person and they're kind of in charge of this, and this is how they're connected to the flight. Like the plot elements bored me. Luckily I'm never really here for plot. My brain's just getting better at ignoring it when it's boring or confusing. But what I did come for was the core theme of this whole thing, which I was satisfied with, which was kind of about taking up the mantle of Captain America and what it means for a character like Sam Wilson to do that in modern day. And I was very impressed with the gravity and maturity with which they treated the social angle of the series. And I think that this is exactly what these are for. You can't take risks or can you, but like at the time that these series were conceived of, it was much less of a gamble to inject this sort of social commentary and exploration into shows that didn't have to be marketed to families and to sell tickets, across the world. This is a show that's, straight to a streaming service, and it is decidedly not for kids. If you have children and you have shown them the MCU films, if WandaVision wasn't enough to sort of be like, hey, maybe this isn't for the whole family, this certainly is not either. I think that maybe that's not talked about that much when it comes down to like, the content of this series. I mean, the social angle is very adult, skewed, and I'm not sure that children would understand it. It's a little complex, and the language is certainly more mature, and the action is more mature. I watched one episode of this with my children in the room, and a character got shot in the face in camera. I was like, okay, well, yeah. And then like 3 seconds later, the character who shot the other person in the face was dancing in a club. So I was like, all right, well, let's go outside, kids. So, I would say that look, if you are keeping up with the MCU, this is a must view. You might be looking at your phone a little bit during it when we're talking about Flag Smashers and the vague revolutionary themes that are kind of there. But everything with Mackie and Sebastian Stan shines. And
I would think of it as like the plot got in the way of the story.
Sure. Yes. It's one of those things where I don't know. I suppose I go, without this specific kind of plot, maybe it's just a bunch of theme without a reason for being. So if they're going to sacrifice one or the other, I'd rather sacrifice plot than character. Does anyone else have anything they want to say before we do talk about the story details?
No, I mean, I think if you're interested in this, you've kind of already made up your mind whether you're interested in this. But if by some weird chance you're waiting and saying like, let me see what people say before I jump in, just go ahead and do it. Like, just jump in. It's fine. Yeah. And as with all the MCU, it's not like it's a slog to get through. And it's going to be pertinent to the story moving forward. So jump in.
Okay, then. All right. Well, with that, why don't we pitch it to the break and then we'll come back and talk about the spoilers. So yeah, this is on Disney Plus. If you have the app, it's free. I'm sure that anyone listening probably has, but if you were waiting for whatever reason, it's definitely worth checking out. And bring your thinking cap. Okay, we're back from the break. All right, let's get right into just talking about spoilers for the show.
Let's do it.
So, wow, where should we start? Dustin, where do you think we ought to start?
Well, let's give a quick overview of the story, and that'll point us in the right direction. So, who wants to start us off? Recap it.
Johnny?
Sure.
Emphasis on cap.
Yeah, so it takes place not long after the end of Endgame, and it picks up with Sam, and he is, it looks contracting for the government, and the shield that Steve gave him at the end of Endgame, he feels uncomfortable accepting that, and so he donates it to the Smithsonian, turn right back around and give it to someone else to take up the mantle of the new Captain America. And from there, Sam is tied with Bucky into a series of international espionage and spy stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Ish.
So they've given the shield. They've already figured out who's gonna be the next Captain America, and they've decided on this veteran named John Walker and his sidekick Lamar to be, for him to be the new Captain America. And it's particularly galling for I want to say it's galling at first. At first, it's just more like a missed opportunity for Sam, for him to be like, yeah, but it can't be me because there's too much baggage that comes with that shield, and I am black, and that might be weird for people, and it might be hard to accept me as the symbol for this country because I feel obviously like I am not represented fully by this country. And they've given it to the next pearly white veteran they could find, and here's John Walker, and whatever, he's a decorated war hero, so okay. And Bucky's really pissed about it because his whole identity is wrapped up in the judgment of Steve Rogers, and so there's a whole lot of identity crisis going on with him. And of course he's also in court mandated therapy, so he's already sort of has the emotional tools to really figure out what that means to him. And then as the series goes on, of course, we see the decline of John Walker, and his storied judgment is sort of undermined by his actions as the series goes on, and then the more powerless he feels without the gifts that Steve Rogers had. And of course, we're in spoilers, so he ends up taking the serum and murdering a guy in the town square, and which was one of just the most striking pieces of striking shots in this whole show was just the blood on the shield from that low angle. And what a character that I legitimately was afraid of.
Well, see, yeah, that's sort of the main thing for me is like he's a scary character because he's unhinged and he's just completely violent.
Yeah.
And he's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants to happen. And so for me watching this, I'm like, yo, I'm scared for Bucky and Sam because this is a super soldier. Like he can do some damage, especially to Sam. And so it's so weird then that we then cut back to the Flag Smashers, and yes, they're super soldiers too, but it doesn't feel as threatening. And I think the show is so preoccupied in trying to make you feel like the Flag Smashers were misunderstood, like flawed characters, that they never went full into villain territory, which therefore made me not scared of them, and therefore made me feel like the stakes weren't high, and therefore made me feel like there was never really going to be much animosity between Sam and Carly, or the Flag Smashers in general. And one of the things that really, really makes for a good villain is when you feel like they're getting under the main character's skin, and the main character that we root for really is going to be able to cut loose at some point and fight back. And I never got that impression here. Sam always just wanted to talk to her. And so interesting story, but good villain it isn't. And so that to me was like this big disconnect where all the eggs went in the Flag Smashers basket, especially at the end where they have this sort of redemption of John Walker. And so they ripped the rug right out from under you when you thought like, oh, well, he's going to be the big bad, right? Like the Flag Smashers are just going to be like the little guys, and then he's going to come. And then, but he just kind of was redeemed at the end, kind of. And so it's really strange because the better villain didn't get to do villainy things to the heroes. So it was a little disappointment in that regard, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that was its biggest missed opportunity, because you're right. That moment where he's standing low angle, blood on the shield, is such a striking image because it's something that we would never have seen from Steve.
It's so wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so
it was a visceral thing too, because it was, kind of violating this thing that you associate with this character who hasn't really been out of the MCU for very long, but was such an integral part of building it up. And so, like, I remember in that scene afterwards where they're fighting, Bucky and Sam are fighting him, and Sam is like desperately trying to clean the blood off the shield. And it's just like, it represents something different to each of these characters, but it all kind of ties back into Steve and their relationship with him. And so, seeing it bloodied like that, and obviously it's the larger commentary on what it means to the country. And it was, that was really powerful.
I thought it was really cool how, it's sort of implied, like you talked about with how recently we've had Steve Rogers in the series, like how no matter how much the shield and what it stands for can be built up and supported by, a good man, how quickly that symbol and that entity can be sullied by an evil man, right, or evil people. Subverted. And what it sort of takes to try to clean the blood off it and restore it again to glory in a way. And I just loved just the concept of the shield in this show. Like it's so much more than just this MacGuffin that they're trying to get in possession of. It literally is, like they said, it's a symbol, but it's nothing without the I think it's in the trailer. It says like it's nothing without the men and women who give it meaning, and we need new heroes. And just I was really taken in by the whole, just Sam's journey to accepting the shield and and feeling like he's earned the shield, and ultimately that he has a responsibility to carry the shield. Can we talk real quick about Isaiah Bradley?
Yeah,
please. I loved this storyline.
Yeah,
Carl Lumbly.
I loved this idea that there was a black super soldier and the US just buried it, and how that character experiences an arc of his own through Sam. You know,
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about that is they allow him to stand his ground, right? This is my belief. This is my thought of the situation. And he presents that to Sam, but it doesn't sway Sam.
Yeah.
Like it informs Sam, but it doesn't sway Sam. And what I loved about that moment is that Sam has what Steve always had, which is like this resolve of like what I believe.
Yeah.
I'm sold out to.
Yep.
And so now I'm like absorbing this information that Isaiah Bradley is giving me, and it's going to inform me moving forward, but it's only going to embolden this stance I already have, because you don't have like, I suppose you could theoretically have a story where Sam or Steve has no idea what to do, and they just completely like 180 from, you know, beginning to end. But maybe the better story, and the story that we're certainly more used to seeing, is I know what's right and I will take the beating. I can do this all day, and then I'll just stand my ground at the end of it. And so it's being sold out to what you believe is right, regardless of what comes against you, not like, I don't know what's right. And so that's what was great, is they put Sam in that Steve mold and said like, look, this guy is going to be Captain America because he knows what it means to be Captain America. He knows what it is to be a hero. He knows what it is to be a soldier. He knows what it is to be everything that title implies. And I loved that moment. But even more than what it meant for Sam, I love where the story went for Isaiah. By the end, you're right. It's like this arc for him.
Yeah.
But again, he doesn't change 180.
No.
Like
what
it's
happened
just
to him
kind of
still happened to him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But this wound that he's carried with him for decades has now been healed somewhat by the new symbol of his country.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and it was also really striking to me because when you think back on the early days of the MCU, it was like, you know, a series of popcorn movies that were fun to watch and solid made popcorn movies. But this was something different. This was a character that we really hadn't seen before in the MCU that was really tackling, you know, very heavy stuff that the MCU has really not done before. And so it was like incredible. And the performance was incredible, but it was also incredible seeing that character not really treated with like, they didn't shy away from, you know, the things that character went through. And,
yeah.
Yep.
You know, it was a different tone for the MCU and it just worked really well. And I loved that like the last shot of the series was the statue of him and he's finally getting that recognition for being a hero. And yeah.
Well, and for being mistreated as well. I mean, like if you actually read closely on that plaque, like there's a phrase on there that's something like, you know, been unknown for far too long or something. Like the monument itself acknowledges like this should never have been buried in the first place.
Right.
I think that there's a tendency for some people, and, you know, I don't know if we're getting into this part of it or not, but like, you know, there's fictional people within the series and probably in forthcoming MCU things, and as well as real people out there who probably don't like the idea of Sam Wilson, of Anthony Mackie being Captain America. Outside the world of the story, it's whether or not you like that a black man is Captain America. I guess it's the same within the story, but ultimately Sam Wilson understands and believes himself to be the man for the job. How do you become a symbol for a country that represents that has treated you and your ancestors and your neighbors and friends and family unequally, you know, essentially become a teammate for that? How does I think the line from Isaiah Bradley was, they'll never let a black man be Captain America, and what self-respecting black man would want to be. You know, you're going to put that suit and shield right on and ignore everything that has formed your life experience and just sort of pretend it didn't happen. And what the monument does and what the series does is basically say, no, it happened. And that's why we have to do better. And I'm going to take the first step and say that I'm going to try and be a leader for us being better and doing better. And so I love the monument on a personal level for Isaiah Bradley, but I love what it says. I love how the series seems to successfully answer the question of like everything's broken right now. What do we do? And what we do is we do better in any way that we can do better. We try and do better. And I thought that was easily boiled down enough for like younger viewers and just for the general audience, but it was explored in complex enough ways and in many conversations during the series that offered more nuance and perspective that hasn't been shown or given time in the MCU before.
Yeah. And I think this speaks to John's point that everybody sees that shield a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I think what Isaiah Bradley sees in that shield is this American patriotism that he has never felt because America's done nothing for him.
Yeah.
But what Sam is seeing and what I think the audience is meant to see is the shield is representative for what America should be and what Steve was always fighting for. And what, of course, Sam is now going to be fighting more directly, I'd say, than Steve is I'm going to put on these stars and stripes as an inspiration to what we could be and what we should be.
Right.
And so the shield doesn't represent America as it is. It represents America as it will be.
Yeah. And
so I think that that's what we're meant to take from that is like this shield is not blind patriotism. It is a patriotism built on a commitment to make tomorrow better than today.
Yeah.
And that's what I took from it. And then what I love about it too is like Bucky's over here just looking at it as a memorial to his buddy.
Yeah.
And like everybody sees this a little bit differently. And we've spent a lot of time talking about Sam because he's the highlight of this show. Like the show should just be called The Falcon. Like Winter Soldier gets a mini arc in here, but it's not anything near what Falcon goes through.
Right.
And so to that end, like I think that's another little thing that I was disappointed in is Bucky's arc, right? Like, so at the end, it's no longer the Falcon and the Winter Soldier; it's Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's like, well, but he's not really the Winter Soldier anymore, so let's change that too.
I was thinking about that a few minutes ago.
Where's Bucky's?
Captain America and Bucky.
Yeah, Captain America and Bucky. I think that Bucky also does go through some good stuff in here. What I ultimately wish we got more of is, so the series seemed to be building to this moment at the end where Bucky would confess to this buddy of his, this old man who he's befriended because Bucky killed his son and he's trying to make amends. He's just not quite sure how to do it.
Yeah.
I wish we got more of that moment. It felt like for something that was built up over the course of 6 episodes, he says what he says, and we don't get enough of the reaction of that. And like, it's true. You there's two ways you can go with it. And you don't want to go the way where he's like, "Oh, that's okay, buddy." You know, like you don't want
dead, but oh well.
We have
I
about
understand
40 seconds.
It's fine.
Yeah. Either that or we have like 30 seconds of this man just sobbing uncomfortably on camera.
Right.
Like, oh God.
But like, that's really the only two options. But like they did kind of need to give us one of them, or some sort of nuance, something, even if it's just like what I kind of thought would happen is that this older man would hear this and walk into the next room and shut the door. You know, get out of my house kind of a thing. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not going to weep in front of you, but I'm also not going to tell you that it's all forgiven.
Right.
Right. And so like, that would just be too easy. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, I wish that moment had gotten a little more. And then I think for me, some of Bucky's, motivation was a little bit muddy. Like, well, if he's wrong about you, then he's wrong about me. And it's like, not really. Like, he could be wrong about him and right about you. Like, that's also an option.
I always took it as like with Bucky, his whole thing is like he was friends with Steve for all these years and they fought together in the war. And that's like all he knew up until a few years ago, right? Because he was brainwashed and he was only awake for certain periods of time and he wasn't even really himself. So that's still very relevant to him. And now that Steve's gone, all these things have changed. I think he's having trouble kind of coming to grips with the fact that how different things are, and his link to that old life of his is gone. And so the Shield still kind of, a lot of his feelings are tied in with Steve because they kind of came as a package deal during the war and they were partners. And so, it was good because now he can kind of like move on from Steve is, well, we don't know if that's kind of implied he's dead, I guess. I don't know. They're kind of keeping him in limbo until maybe Chris Evans decides to come back, maybe, or something. I don't know. But it was good because now he's found, you know, a purpose in partnering up with Sam and letting go of those, you know, those negative feelings from being all those years of being the Winter Soldier. So, you know, I think it obviously takes a backseat to Sam's arc, and the show is really about Sam and Bucky's there. But
they also seem to have like really depowered Bucky a little bit in this.
I was saying that exact same thing. Yeah, it was bizarre to me that they were having trouble fighting John Walker, both of them, because Bucky for decades was essentially just alive to murder people in the most efficient, brutal way possible.
And if you think about the Winter Soldier, he fought hand to hand with Steve.
And
Steve couldn't beat him.
Yeah,
but John Walker, he can do it.
And it was also because John Walker had just taken the serum. It's implied maybe like, you know, just a couple hours before that event. So
right.
Yeah, especially with Sam there as well. Yeah, they nerfed him a little bit, but you know.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen the argument like, oh, well, so he's the difference is he's no longer the weapon that he was, right? Like there's a difference between him trying to kill and him trying to just like sideline somebody.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but the technical skill is still there. Like I would imagine the technical skill is still there.
Like I remember that scene in Civil War when he escapes from the lockup and he like takes out Tony and Sharon Carter is there and he manages to almost escape even with Steve and all those people tracking him. And so, you know.
Maybe he's like Samson and the hair was the source of his strength.
Once they cut off his hair,
cuts it off.
I'm not sure how much time we have left on the call. We might only have a few minutes. I had a question other than, you know, obviously I think we all loved Zemo in the show. So, or do we? I don't know. Maybe we don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
I had a question about the kind of one of the final things that happens in the show. What do you think of the Sharon Carter twist?
I don't know what to make of it. It seems so out of character.
There's some people
but at the
saying
same time, we really don't know that much about her as a character. So the whole thing was bizarre for me because you never really know where she lies, but it's not one of those things where it's, you know, it was odd.
And bear in mind,
it was pointed out later on too that when in Endgame when they're looking at who was dusted, Sharon Carter was dusted. So they imply that she created this persona for herself in this going underground and things, but she would have had to have done that in the past few months, you know. So unless it obviously oversight, you know. Who knows?
Yeah.
My thing with Sharon Carter was that someone pointed out, you know, we've still got Secret Invasion Skrull stuff, so it may not even be. It might be revealed that it's not even her. Some people say it's a setup. It's a setup for Armor Wars. You know, like, you know, she might start selling off a lot of Stark's tech, and then that's when Rhodey's going to get involved, and she might be a villain for that show. You know, it could just be simple, like, no, we wanted to turn this character into a villain because she kind of in all the fallout of Civil War, she was sort of just forgotten about and sort of sidelined. And this is we're going to make a statement about that with future.
See, I think that's a really interesting plot point. I just don't think it was really handled well. I like the aspect that she felt betrayed by all these people that just kind of forgot about her and went underground. Like, I think that was interesting. It just, there was so much going on in the show that there wasn't enough time to let it fully develop or breathe. And then by the end, it's like, okay, she's a straight villain now. So
yeah, that's the main thing is I don't know where she's at psychologically. So when she's pardoned at the end, I don't know whether to make of it that she's like actually genuinely grateful. And then now she's second guessing like, oh, should I have become the power broker at some point? Like now I regret this. or like we don't know enough about her to say anything other than what we're given in the show, which is she don't care. She's a sociopath. If that's what they want to do. We just don't know enough about her psychological state to make any informed opinion on where she's at or where she's going to go. So
there's no real compass to where she lies. So you don't know who she's lying to, when, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know whether to believe, like, I don't know what to make of her. And I also don't know what to make of Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Like, it was also strange.
Well, I read that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was apparently supposed to show up in Black Widow.
Yes.
So you would have already seen her at this point if COVID hadn't happened. And so, but it was a shock when she showed up.
Yeah. I'm like, Elaine Bennis, what you doing here?
It is in the MCU now.
Yeah. I can't wait till Jason Alexander and like Kramer shows up.
Jason Alexander is MODOK.
I think
they should just recast Groot to be Michael Richards.
What if they made Jerry Seinfeld Mephisto?
No more talk of Mephisto.
Yeah.
Every other episode of WandaVision, everyone, that person's Mephisto.
Yeah. No, never happened. Well, are y'all excited for, I guess y'all have both watched, or maybe just the teaser for Loki, right? John, have you watched anything?
No.
I watched the teaser.
Going forward, not watching any trailers of anything. Yeah, I didn't even watch the trailer for Falcon Winter Soldier.
I will watch teasers. I will not watch trailers.
Okay, fair. But I mean, I've seen like bits and pieces. You can't avoid it, right? I see them in TV commercials. Like for Loki, I've seen bits and pieces. I mean, it looks interesting. I'm not as excited for it as I was for WandaVision or this, but
you're Loki. I've watched your whole life. Wow, I gotta say, crazy. Wow.
I heard your brother, he sailed off. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Based on WandaVision and this, I'm going to make a prediction right here, right now. The second to last episode is going to be really super character driven, and it's going to be touted as the best of the entire series. And then the finale is going to kind of be a disappointment. That's my prediction.
That's so bold of you, Dustin.
In closing, I guess I thought the finale for this was a lot stronger than the finale for WandaVision, because that moment where Sam shows up and he's in the costume and he is the new captain, that was so earned for me. And then the moment where he's speaking with the reporters afterward, or the senators, I think it was senators and reporters, that was like a very interesting statement for that character right away, was that he wasn't going to shy away from these things that he still felt obviously very strong about. And, so that was the finale for this, even though the action was a little clunky and some things with John Walker were a little clunky. I thought the finale for this was stronger than the one for WandaVision.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
100%. Let's get back on after Loki comes out. We'll talk about that. When's that? June? June, right?
June.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, soon.
And sorry, I want to tell people too, the Marvel assembled of this, of the assembled episode of this, the documentary series about the making of these shows. This one is on Friday on the 30th, so you can check that out on Disney Plus.
Oh, nice.
I love those in general. I think we all grew up as special features kids. And so, if you're into that sort of stuff, I mean, that's the Lord of the Rings special features are just a weekend gold mine in of themselves. So that part of me has never gone away. And, I loved the WandaVision one, and, I'm looking forward to the one for this show. So, if it's April 30th, go to Disney Plus, check it out. I'm sure it's 90-ish minutes long.
Yep.
So it'll be good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.